story of your father, Victor and Rita.
Okay, so I'm here with Emmanuel, and he wants me to tell the story of my father. And I don't know the exact year he was born, but it was in the 1800s, I know. And he came to he came to Canada with his father and his brother, Vasily, and they were in Saskatchewan, Canada, and they were working on the railroad many years. He was 12 years old when he left Romania. He left his sisters and all his family and his heart in Romania. And eventually, his father returned to Romania and left Vasily and my dad, Victor, in Saskatchewan. And my father was a young boy giving water to all the men on the railroad. And so he was learning all the languages because people were coming from all over Europe. And then he learned actually 12 languages and spoke them pretty fluently, and decided to move to the United States. His brother Vasily stayed in Canada, and my dad moved to Kentucky. And he was taking a room at my mother's, my grandmother's house in Kentucky. And her daughter, Mary, became my mother. She was just 15 years old, and my dad was 29 when they got married. My grandfather had already died, and my grandmother was not well. So she provided a marriage so that they could take care of my mom. And they soon had a child, and they named him Victor, but he didn't live but a few hours. And so they buried him there in Kentucky. And then eventually he was working there at the bank, and he was a translator because he had learned all these languages. And then they moved to Michigan, and my father said that they were going to get a grocery store for my mother to work in. She had no schooling. My dad had been to school and learned quite a bit, and then worked at the banks. So he was working at the banks, and he had an interest in cars, but only to drive. He didn't know how to fix anything except a flat tire. And so we had 10 cars, and they were old cars that looked terrible. And the neighbors were complaining about the cars looked terrible in the neighborhood. So he built a 10-car garage to cover them all up. Can you believe? And what else can I say about my dad? He was a very spiritual man. He wouldn't step on a cockroach in the store. He would catch it on a piece of paper and take it outside. You know, he was very... And he was always to church every Sunday, and he prayed at night in the dark somewhere in a closet. You never know. If you went in the room and put the light, there would be my dad praying. You go, oh, I'm sorry, Dad. Whoa. And we had, with the store, we had to buy chickens and eggs from the farm. So we would go to the farm, and that was always fun for us kids. He had 4 children, of course. I mean, more children. And we would go to the farm, and then he would stop at a swimming hole and we would get to go swimming on the way and have a picnic. And then we would come home and put eggs in the basket and go door to door selling the eggs. And my mother would butcher the chicken to sell in the store. And they did very well, worked hard. And I don't know, he was very good with money. He knew how to spend it, but he knew how to save it. And he knew about investing, you know, what's a good way to invest so your money can make money, and he taught us. And on the way to the farms, he always would be teaching us something like a language, you know. He taught like how to count in Romanian, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In Hungarian, Örtketem, Haram, Homne, Yods, Kilens, Dies.
Mother name Hungarian?
No, my mother was Hungarian and Romanian. And he would...
name, mother?
Mary. And Chinese, Ichinese, Samsi, Luk, Chat, Pat, Kausep.
Your father know many language?
12.
12. Wow.
12.
Precious.
And
she have many friends?
No, not many friends. He was very quiet man to himself. Serious, more serious. Waste nothing. Waste no time. Waste no food. Waste nothing.
You're learning Romanian language?
He tried to teach. He would sit us with a book, but it didn't work. We didn't learn, as you can see.
Singing, and
yeah, he sang. Yeah, he sang some little songs and told stories. He knew a lot of stories about the man that was repairing a roof. And he says, the carpenter took the nail and it would not go. He had to use the other nail because it was on the wrong side. You know, it was a funny story.
Joacă Nicolae.
Yeah, on his foot he would sing us, Joacă Nicolae, yeah.
Okay.
And at the table, you know, he would always pray. Always pray. Everybody prayed. Nobody played at the table.
The Romanian connection, what happened? Your father connection, Romanian people.
I guess he was writing to Mariwara Grossa. I don't know. He must have been writing to your Uncle Victor Oltian, because Victor went to the salt mines because of my father. I guess he had contact with an American, and the communists came, and so they sent him to the salt mines because he knew an American, which was terrible, terrible.
Look at the winter. No. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
A story in back Romanian. She
His last trip.
Last trip.
He had a great desire to come back home, and
have here.
Yeah, in his heart. Yeah, he wanted to come back home. He hadn't been home for 60 years.
60 years. Wow.
Yeah, and his sisters and whoever were still here, and so
he missing home.
we were. He never flew on an airplane before, so this was his first airplane trip too, and it was a nice trip. We visited.
How many person come back?
Was my mother, my father, my sister, her 2 children, and myself. There were 6.
6 people.
Yeah. Oh, I can't believe the snow. Amazing. Yeah, 6 of us came, and we got to Bucharest, and Rita Aluaș was there, and he had a man named Marine with a jeep.
My grandfather, grandpa.
Well, this
Victor.
was a different man. Yeah, but that your grandfather Victor
Vasile Pipaș
and Vasily Pipaș came to on a train to meet us. And
My mother's story, your father kissing
the ground, huh?
ground.
Yes. Yeah, that was. I didn't know that. She just told me.
You no see, but you how know?
Yeah. My dad talked about all the time about the cuckoo bird, and he'd go cuckoo, and he'd do the cows, you know, moo, and the chicken, chicken cows, yeah, he liked all that sounds, you know. And look at the sun is shining, and it's snowing.
Okay, she come home.
So we started back home. There was 3 cars of us.
Okay.
And we were going early in the morning. We stayed at Vasily Aluaș's apartment. He left, and his wife and child, they all left, moved out, just gave us their place to stay. And the next morning we got in the cars and started, and we got to Brașov, the black church, and we're going to have breakfast because we hadn't eaten breakfast. And so I was running ahead myself. I was running ahead with my sister's 2 kids, and my dad was back with his...
Weather is summer, no?
Yeah, it's in June.
June.
Yeah.
Okay, she breakfast.
In 1969.
1960.
And so when I was running ahead, my sister called me, Rita, and I turned around. I said, yes, what? And she said, my mother was on one side of my dad standing, and my sister the other side. They both had an arm. And I said, what's the matter? She said, I don't know. So I said, Dad, I looked at him. I said, what's the matter, Dad? And he said, I just fainted. And I said, oh my goodness, you're dizzy from flying. We'll sit you down on this doorstep. So I went to sit him down, and his eyes just rolled back, and I laid him down, and I started CPR. I blew in his mouth, and his lungs just gurgled back immediately. I'm like, whoa. So you couldn't save him. And there was a man on the street. I forget his name. I might have his name at home. That lived in Sigashora, and he called the ambulance. And so the ambulance came, and my mother and I got in the back of the ambulance with my father, and it was, communist time, scary time. And my mom says, well, we have to take his passport and anything on him now, because he died, and we have to leave him in the city here. So we were taking his jacket and opening his clothes, and he had made cloth, and he had monies in this around his waist, and he had everybody's name on it to give them money when he got there. And you weren't allowed to have money. You know, the communists wouldn't allow you to, but my dad did anyway. It was a very dangerous situation. And I go, oh my gosh, we could get in big trouble for this. So anyway, we took the money, we took the passports and everything, and we at the hospital, and they declared him dead and put him on the gurney, and there was a big refrigerator, and slid him in on the drawer. And the next day...
Hospital Brașov.
Yes. The next day, my mom and I went back to get him, but we had to get permission. They didn't allow you to drive from Brașov to somewhere else. You know, you can't do that. So we had to get special permission and everything to bring his body in a casket. And this man that makes caskets, I guess, down in the basement. We went down in the basement, and there's just a wooden box, kind of dirty and whatnot. And I thought, oh, that's just a plan to make the box. That's not the box. And I go, oh, you know, he could see my face. I was like disappointed. And I said, yeah, it doesn't look like a casket to me. And he goes, it's good. He says, I made it beautiful for the American. And he says, and he goes to the corner, and he goes like this, and he goes, I'm giving you all these new wood shavings, you know, that he was shaving wood to put in the casket. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, I couldn't believe it. And so we took him and brought him back to, whose house did we end up at? Semyonka? I think we did. Were we at Semyonka's house? My dad?
Yes. Maria Simionka.
Montana.
Da.
Your sister.
His
father's sister.
His father's sister, yes.
You took care home Sebiș, no?
Yeah, we brought him back to Sebiș. And, but first I forgot this part. When we left my dad at the hospital, we went to Sebiș, right? And in the streets there, all the family, you know, Maria, Lodovica, Aurelia, etc. And they're like, oh yeah, Victor, you know, and oh my gosh, we were crying, and because Victor wasn't there. It was just terrible.
My mother have one.
Yeah?
No? None. Yeah.
So, my mother said, we can't tell them that Dad had died. It's too much of a shock, that he took sick and we leave him at the hospital. But Maria, she said, oh no. She says, you bring my brother over the mountains, over the oceans, and you leave him in the hospital? No, I don't believe. But she knew right away. So, that was that. We went in and unpacked some things and stayed there, and it was such a shock to us how they lived, you know. People were wearing tires for shoes, and lots of people with silver teeth, and it was like, whoa, where am I? It was a scary show. So then we brought my father back, and he was in the house there, and we were sleeping. Here was my father, and we were sleeping right next to him. It was weird. They measured him, how tall he was, and they made a candle, a wax candle, and they coiled it up like this, and they would light the candle and pull it up until it was end of life. It was very nice. And they had the Last Supper, you know, with everybody at the tables and the candles and so on and so.
Father have a secret, no?
What?
A box.
Yeah, that box that we got, yeah. It was just an old pine box, yeah. Nothing fancy. But they put in a beautiful blanket for him. You
Not
know.
have money. Have thank you for many people, no?
Yes. Yeah.
In the box.
Yeah. But yeah, he was like, he didn't buy, you know, like lots of clothes, shoes, anything like that. But when he bought one, it was a very good one. Always. A pair of shoes or a very good coat. Maybe he only had one coat, but it was a very good one, something like that. He never wanted to waste anything. He even wanted my mother to repair his necktie. It was so old. And she said, you can't do that. You can't repair the necktie. But anyway, then they had, we went up on the mountain and Rose was doing slanina on the fire and the cuckoo bird sang. And I go, oh my gosh, the cuckoo bird was like my dad saying, I'm home, I'm done, I'm good, I'm safe. You know, it was like, wow.
Because cuckoo birds singing language, your father language, Romanian, difficult, missing home.
Yes, yes.
No?
So it was beautiful, and then they put him on this old wooden cart, had wooden wheels that were so old they weren't round anymore, and an old ox was pulling the wagon to the church, and it was just so strange for us, you know. I had no idea what a village was, coming from the city all my life, you know, with sidewalks and everything. And now, where am I? You know, we're so
Your
strange.
father expression, remember?
It's later than you think.
That,
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do it, I'll say. Oh, I'm gonna do it. And he goes, do it, fuga. It's later than you think. Yeah.
okay.
They never swore, never drank.
No?
No, if he was angry, he would say, you bloomin' guy. And you knew he was very angry.
Your father like? Have like?
Like, what does he like?
Travel, trip?
Oh, no.
No?
No, we went on one boat ride one time, and we went to Kentucky one time. But no, that's it. We didn't travel. We were working. You know how the Romanians are.
Munca.
Munca. Da.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And come back you a story.
I wanted to say about when we went to church, you know. Of course, I didn't understand what they were saying, but all the bells were ringing it from all the villages all over, you know, for him. And then in church, they took the boards and put on top and nailing the top down in church. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then my mother and sister and I were on one side of the casket, and we had little breads that the ladies had made, and we made a cross on it, on the bread, and a candle, and gave them over the casket, a little gift from my father. You know, just something simple, not crazy like this big bowls and oh my big breads, and it's, you know, no, just simple.
Understand. Okay.
Yeah. Just
Simple.
like my father was, waste not, want not, you know. Why you gotta give big bowls for what? Why a big bread for what? You know, it's not necessary. It's not tradition. That's just giving something to show. You know. And we come out of church, and they put his casket back on the trailer thing, you know, the cart, and Nastasia got up on the cart and sat down on the casket, and she's saying to my mother something, and my mother's saying back, and they're saying and saying. I said, Mama, what's the matter? What's the matter? She says, she wants me to get up and sit on the casket with her. And I said, well, get up there, go. She said, I won't go, you go. And I go, oh my gosh. So I did, I got up. My sister wouldn't go, Barry Lynn wouldn't go. So I got up and I sat with Nastasia. I guess it was Nastasia, it could have been Aurelia. For all I know, it's been, you know, so many years. But I was, and then it's going every which way with the wooden wheels, you know, up over the rocks and whatever. Like, oh my gosh, are we gonna fall off of here? And we got there, and they had already dug a hole where he's buried now, and they were putting him in there, and they threw some monies for so he'd have money to pay St. Peter if there was a charge to get into heaven. It was funny. And they also they threw some cabbage rolls in for him to eat on the way, and some chicken. That's the Romanians feeding people all the way. You know, even after they can't eat, they're still gonna